So now for part 4, we're going to go through and we're going to calculate some percentages related to the whole class and to each of the categories, females, males, each of the groupings that we have. In order to do that, first we're going to look at the percentage of students, the simple number of students that scored at 70 or above. So I do that by putting my cursor in the blank cell in this column of greater than 70%. I hit auto sum, and I simply want to know AA row 3 through AA row 22, which is what I have, and I hit enter, and I have the number 12. So to know what percentage of the class that this makes up for, then what I do again is hit auto sum, sum. And so now what I'm going to do is identify that I want AA 23. Let me take that information out, and then I'm going to put my division sign, which is the / sign, the number 20, to represent the number of students, followed by the asterisk, and then the number 100, and hit enter. So 60% of my students scored at or above 70%. So now what I'm going to do from this point forward is calculate some information based on the whole class, not just the number that scored above 70, but just the general overall test average. So in order to do that, I'm going to put my whole class on the row 24. I'm going to put my cursor here in that blank spot. And so now what I'm going to do is hit auto sum, sum, and I'm going to identify the parameters for this. I want column E. Column E is picking up that information, but specifically, I really want to go with E, and I want row 24 by X 24. And then what I'll do here is simply divide by the number of questions on the test. All right? Because if you may recall, this is the overall class percent for each item. And so now I'm just simply getting that overall test average. And so I hit enter. And so now I see that the class average is 66.25. All right. So N is representing the number of questions for that. And we're going to do the percent female in the exact same way. I'm going to choose auto sum, sum, and this time I'm going to choose this calculation and get that E25 to X25 on the outside. I'll do a division sign by the number 20, which represents the number of questions on the test. And notice this time we're not doing the 100 piece there. We're just simply getting the class average. And we'll do the same thing for each one of these. And that, as I've taught you in the past, you can grab that little green square and pull it straight down, and it will apply that same formula to every single row. So there we have our calculations for the overall test average, for the class percent, that's line 24, for females, males, each of the racial groups, and each of the ability groupings. Now, once we've done that, we can even calculate the average number of correct fact answers, okay? Those questions related to facts, questions 1 through 10. So what I'll do now is put my cursor in this blank area here to the right of the word facts. And the formula that I will use is that I'll put sum, and now I'm going to identify the sum, and it's going to be row E, column E, 24 to N, 24. Now look where it is grabbing information. See where it's grabbing information from? Okay, and that's what we want it to grab, right there, to be able to calculate the class. We're pulling it from the whole class percentage, and that's what we really wanted to do. So after we have that, we put our cursor to the right, /, and then we put also the number 20 there, and that is representing the number of questions. Okay, so we are looking at the number of fact questions, and we hit enter, and so we have 36. So for concepts, we're going to do the same thing, the same process, sum, and now this time we're going to pick up just this information for the whole class percentage. We're going to, outside of the parentheses, put a / and the number 20 to represent the number of questions. And then we do the same thing again for the reasoning. And we're going to pick up just these 4 items and then come to the right and identify our, these would only be the number 4. And the reason there are only 4 is that we only have 4 questions associated. Enter. Now, let me go back to concepts and do that one again. So we're not going to divide by 20. We're only going to divide by how many questions? 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'll notice I've come to the top here, and I'm putting the number 6 there because that's the number of questions associated with it. And then here for 36, again, it won't be 20, it will be 10, because there are 10 questions associated with the facts category. All right, so just so you'll see these formulas go up at the top, and I'm using E24 all the way over here to N24, but I'm only dividing by 10 because there are only 10 questions. For this one, I'm looking at, for concepts, I'm doing O24 through T24, but how many questions are there? Only 6, so I divide by 6. And then here for reasoning, since there are only 4 questions, I'm only dividing by the number 4. So this allows us to look at the average number of correct fact questions, the average number of correct concept questions, and the average number of correct reasoning. And so it just gives us another way to look at the data points very clearly. So to kind of wrap this up, what I'm going to do is highlight this section so I can just make sure I've got it all uniform. It is centered. Make sure it's all centered. I'm going to fill it in with black. I'm going to use white lettering. And I want to see the that all borders are there, and using that white outline there. So let me get that one more time in here. Let me get my line color, change it to white, and click on the border again, and there we go. So now what we have, if we want to kind of make this stand out a little bit, we might even change this border to be yellow, and so the fill color to be yellow, and it will help. And then we want the lettering to be black, and that'll help us see it a little bit better there. So, and then we can change this line color within this to be black there. And so now we've got all the information that we need to have highlighted and placed in a way that helps us to see it. And so there we go. And that's the short of it. But here's what you'll do is for your EdTPA, you will be asked after you have your data set based on a test that you give and you enter the data in this way, you will be asked to take a screenshot of this whole page and to upload it in EdTPA. So you've got to get really proficient at doing this, and it really is not hard to do once you get the hang of doing that. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you, and so you will have an assignment for class using what's called here on the tab retest. So you'll actually use the data here. You will create and do all the highlighting and do all the counting. Notice it's called the English post test. It's really not a retest, it's a different test set that I want you to do. And so this will certainly be a way that you can practice for homework on how to do this. Don't be concerned right now about the rubric piece of it, but just for homework, you'll click on the tab at the bottom, retest. You'll go through all of the same spreadsheet maneuvering that we did on this one for right wrong in order to create your data set from which you can calculate. So the interesting thing that we haven't done yet that you would want to do is, let's say that you gave students, if this were a pretest and you gave them, because it says a pretest, and you gave them the post-test and you had all of those data points, you could already have this template set up and just put in the new data points in this area here, and it would just automatically calculate for you. So I am going to show you that piece because I think it's going to be a very interesting type of setup for you. So in order to do that, I'm simply going to highlight everything down to include what I have here. I'm going to copy, right-click, copy. And then I'm going to come over here just a few spaces to the column AD, and I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to scroll over. Whoops. And sometimes you just have to kind of grab it over there and just kind of with your arrow button keep going over to the right till you've got enough columns in there, and then you Control V, which is Control Paste, and so you have all of the same information that you had over here in the left. And if you double click off of this, it'll kind of take it off of there, and then you have everything that's there, right? So now what I'm going to do is just kind of show you. Let's say that nothing has changed except the data here. So what if I were to highlight just across what their scores were through item 20, and I were to make some changes in here. I think for time's sake, I'm not going to take all of this out. But as we look across here, let's say, all right, Lisa, maybe she got an extra one right here, or maybe she got a couple of extra ones there. Maybe Joe also did a little bit better the second time around. So I'm just going to kind of add some other random data in here. You would have actual data that you would be working with to see, so that we could see, you know, how well students have done. But do you notice that as I'm making changes to data within the the data set, it's recalculating all along the way, which is really fantastic for you. So once you get your template set up, I would suggest that you continue to use that template and just adjust your data set that's in here, right? So now that you have this data set all taken care of, and we can see it across the screen here, you're going to notice that if we were to compare facts, concepts, and reasoning from the post-test to the pre-test, and I think you can still see this here, that on the pre-test, you had 72% get facts right, but on your post-test, 78%. And you see the change in the concepts and the change in the reasoning. And if you wanted to go in and take a look at the percentages, you could then compare from pre to post. So that is a way that you can use pre and post data templates to help you think through and evaluate and the data points so that you can get a handle on what the scores are and how helpful they are and that kind of thing. So I hope that this has been helpful information to you as you go along. Don't worry about creating a fake post test for your assignment. What I'm interested in is that you do an accurate version of the preliminary information, and then for your homework assignment, you'll click on the retest tab, and on the retest tab, you'll go through each step of the directions that I gave you to create the spreadsheet using this data set. And so anyway, I'll look forward to reading and see how you do.